I had a few questions and I can see a lot of questions being piled up already. But considering we are running short of time and there are several questions which I already had in mind I wanted to pose, I'm going to go directly to the urban expert over here, Professor Bohm. Professor Bohm, after understanding this, I think there's something else with the concept of having a smart satellite economic town. Can you explain us how it has become a success story in various parts of the world and which stakeholders like other urban developers itself need to consider it for a successful implementation, especially when it comes to India?
Thanks, Payal. It's a good question. Smart satellite cities or towns, they're an important instrument for developing polycentral urban regions. So you can see some quite good examples here in mainland Europe, and I would say whole Europe is kind of a smart satellite town. History showed that these monofunctional satellite towns, where you only have one specific usage, for instance, commercial functions or residential areas or highly industrialized areas, are quite under threat, and they are really likely to fail because they're not resilient to market and societal changes, especially in crisis situations, as we have faced over the past weeks now, heavily.
Thank you, Professor Bohm. With that, actually, I'm going to go back to Andreas, actually. Andreas, I'm going to club two questions, actually, for you, and I ask you at this stage about explaining the projects which you have in India. And in light of that, I'm also going to take up one of the questions which have been posed by the audience about the fact whether this 2000-watt smart city talks about whether it deals with redevelopment of inner cities as well as old core areas of the cities with dilapidated and dense fabric. If you could club both your questions and answer over here. Andreas, I think you're on mute. That's the reason we can't hear.
I'd like to answer the question first. Yes, in Switzerland, what we mostly do is we try to repair the existing cities. So the 2000-watt smart city idea is not only a greenfield project, but it's also a brownfield project. The difficulty of brownfield projects is by far bigger than in greenfield, because in a greenfield we can start baggage from the past. So what we do in Switzerland is small steps in existing cities. What we're trying in India is, on the contrary, actually a green field development. In order to become a successful 2000-watt smart township, you don't only want to build buildings. You need to have a vibrant life in these towns. How do you get that? Now, the residents must have ample work, otherwise they commute to the next town. Children must find good schools, otherwise they have to be bused to the next town. The community must function well, otherwise it's dead and boring. And the community must get good care and comfort. And all of that has not much to do with density or building or construction or concrete, but it's a prerequisite. Now, I have talked about the vibrant life, but the vibrant life needs a shell. So what we came up with is a model township. We take 1 square kilometer of land on which we build a township which is carbon neutral for 20,000 people. But we don't start with the construction of buildings. We start with planting trees. We need trees for fresh air, for food, because it takes time. And only at the end do we really build the township. And one of the questions I've seen on Q&A is, how much does that cost? Well, it's not like buying a banana. You can ask easily, how much does it cost? In Switzerland, about 100 times of what it costs in India. Well, in towns, it's a little bit like that too. India is less expensive. We had our calculation people look after that very carefully. And we believe that a square kilometer of town of FAR2, that means you can build twice the amount of space as you have land, will cost something like 200 million for its infrastructure. And if sold in pieces and parcels, in blocks, between roads and avenues, you can, and the life cycle costs, they are even less expensive than the usual sprawl. Imagine the following. In Indian setup, several ones of the more affluent states are ready for 2,000 watt smart cities, where you can see people drive around in BMWs or Mercedes limousine. You are in the perfect setup with a high potential. These people drive a BMW, Mercedes. They want sustainable comfort in their cars, in their homes, and in their cities. And it's not a question of the money is not here. The money is here because the market is here. So that brings me to Pune is one of these places that have a very strong market. And if you look at the next slide, you can see we have been offered by Vikram Kumar and his crew 16 sites around Pune, around the ring road. And we were able to select 3 of them, 2 of them in prime time, third one a little bit later. And these 3 areas represent exactly what Vikram has told us earlier. It's IT country, it's manufacturing country, and the third one is medical city country. These places will become drivers for a lot of economy, for a lot of workplaces, a lot of schools, a lot of fun in life.
Actually, go back. I have a question for Mr. Kumar over here, because you have ended on a very interesting note as to how the amount of land which we have already got from the PMRDA. With that, I actually want to ask Mr. Vikram Kumar that what is PMRDA's support going to be? Is it going to be up only with respect to the land, or what extra support can the government provide? And what expectations do we have?
Smart cities. This set of new rules again will have to be framed and approved by PMRDA. Third, we have to take a lot of government approvals also, like environment approvals, etc. That also will come to PMRDA for approval and all. But most importantly, we, along with 2000 Smart Cities Society, will work together in designing, in development, in marketing, and making these cities run in future. We already have signed a memorandum with them, memorandum of understanding, according to which we have shared our responsibilities and we are working for that. Your second question was regarding partnership with certain industry.
Fundamental to driving investments. So insurance can be a powerful tool in stimulating sufficient risk transfer solutions and investment in critical infrastructures. And in Asia, much of the investment comes from the private sector, public sector. So, so bringing in other stakeholders to help share that risk and share that investment is critical for us to plug the infrastructure investment gap, because nobody alone, not private or public, can carry these risks on their own. And so reinsurance industries combine risk knowledge, the data, global data, and risk transfer solutions can help drive the sustainable insurance solutions that are fundamental for infrastructure investment. And if you go to the next slide, so for us, what's really important is 2 things. One is bringing together the right stakeholders. So that's very important. And what we want to do, so traditionally,